Welcome to week 8 of McFade Critique, and this week we've got a nice selection of photos. If you have a little look down here, there's 5 being uploaded for this week's session. So we've got this rather gargantuan looking waterfall and a few others to have a quick look through. If you're new to this purposes, people upload photos anonymously to a Dropbox folder which I've set up. I've no idea who's uploaded them. It means that I don't have any prejudice against who's taken the photos, how they processed it. I just say it as I see. I've decided to do it in Lightroom so I can maybe give a few tips on cropping, white balance and things like that. And the idea is that I upload it and everyone learns a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do this week, I'm going to go back to my phone and limit each shot to 2.5 minutes. That way it won't be such a massive gargantuan film like last week, which got to about 35 minutes, I think. Okay, so let's just set this thing going. So 4, 3, 2, 1. Right, okay, so first thing, wow, what a massive waterfall. I mean, I've just done a little zoom in on it here and you can see the people. I don't know if you can see that on YouTube, but they are like 5 pixels tall or something like that. They're ridiculously small. So it's a hell of a scene. I'd love to see this place. I'm guessing it's in America. That waterfall must be hundreds of feet tall, and that's a big old river going over it. First impression is that it's very cool, as in the white balance is cool. If you look at these clouds, they look blue rather than white, and it means that these rocks here are looking quite cool as well. And the sand down here, which is usually quite orange, is looking a little bit toneless. Now, using the white balance tool on a JPEG is never as effective as on a RAW file, but whoever's photo this was, just give this a go. Whoa, okay. See, this is the problem with shooting in JPEG. What's happened there is it's just gone a bit wacky. If you actually did that with a RAW file, the effect would be completely different. But let's just undo that, Control Z, and just slide the warmth up a little bit so you can see it happening. Okay. Right, so you can see now that this area down here is a little bit more orange, which I think is a bit more natural, and that's a bit more orange. The clouds, the sky has gone a little bit weird, but that's because we are editing a JPEG, I would suggest. Right, other thing I would say is, where is this in the frame? Right in the middle. Oh, it must excuse me, I've just had a massive virus, so I might cough a little bit. So if we get our crop tool up, and we can maybe try a few different crops on this. How about using the rule of thirds? It seems to work for most things. So if we did that, you've now got the waterfall coming sort of across the screen from top right to mid left. So you've got a diagonal thing going on there. Okay, so that's one idea. I mean, you could try it the other way around if you wanted to. I don't think this will work as well because the direction the water's flowing in. But other than that, you've got great detail going on. It's a great sense of scale. Right, well that's 2.5 minutes. It's not long, is it? So let's go to shot number 2. I know this place. I've sat on that balcony with a beer many times. This is Robin Hood's Bay, the Bay Hotel. Pretty rare to see it photographed from this angle. You usually see it photographed from the beach over this direction because the sun sets nicely onto the white of that. I think it's a lovely scene. It's got captured the essence of the place really nicely. Actually, you've got people sat around having their lunch. Let's have a little zoom in and see what they're up to. Yeah, they're not drinking beer too much, are they? That's, so I've even got lots of lobster pots, which is something very typical of the area up there. I think you've had something going on a little bit amiss down here with the HDR, and it's happened in a place which is a real nightmare to solve, because to clone these chaps out here, you're gonna have to spend hours trying to make that boat look realistic. He's lost his legs a little bit, which is probably how I ended up last time I was there. So yeah, just a little bit of attention to those. Maybe try Photomatics is de-ghosting software. When you pull something into Photomatics, just 3 shots, you can do a selective de-ghosting. So what you do is you draw, you go into de-ghosting mode, you draw a lasso around them, and then it gives you a choice of which image you want to pick your shot from. So you could probably pick the middle one here, and it will get rid of this problem. Compositionally, do we need to see this much of that building there? Maybe make it more of a natural 3x2 crop, something a bit more like, whoa, about there maybe. That way, when you're trying to frame it, you'll probably be able to fit it in a frame a bit better. That's much more like, 3 high by 2 wide. So you could do a 18 by 12 or whatever it is you prefer. But I think it is HDR. It's been processed really nicely, and it's just a nice scene. Okay, another 2.5 minutes up. Stately home with a miniature effect. Right, okay. So, yeah, it's an interesting choice because it looks like the blur's been applied to this top from here upwards and left the lower portion to be sharp in the river, well, in the pond. Now, what I would probably have done is the exact opposite. I'd have kept this sharp. So I'd have started my blur. Oops. I'll just show you when I zoom in. You can see the fade kicking in there. So I'd have probably had this bit here sharp and then blurred the bottom out like that. But I like the fact you got it on a corner like that. It's got a nice face. There's a bit more room on this side than I would have gone for. May have, let's just grab that and crop it a little bit. Don't want it too tight around the building, but just to put this I don't know what the term is, portico is it, or a load of pillars anyway on the third there. Maybe just a bit of a more sympathetic crop. But yeah, if you're going to do these sort of effects, make sure you keep the main focal point sharp. If you're going to do a radial blur where something like that is sharp and everything just disappears into blurriness around it, make sure that bit's sharp. Okay, we've got 37 seconds left on this one, so let's just have a little play with a bit of vibrance, clarity. If you notice up here on the histogram, it's a little bit on the dark side. So what we could do is we could bring the whites up a little bit, maybe. And that just proves to me that I've put too much clarity on there. So let's take that down again. There you go. Just adds a little bit more, power to the shot, a bit more vibrance. Right. So next, what have we got here then? Ooh, it's St. Paul's and some building in front of it, which I'm sure Prince Charles isn't a big fan of. Okay, so again, looks like a HDR, and we've got, again, if we have a look at the histogram, about 2 stops under exposure going on here. Okay, now the thing there is it leaves us looking quite flat. So I mean, by the way, I do love this composition. I mean, the way you've got these girders and everything looks amazing. And my God, the water was high. It looks like you're in the water. But so let's just correct this. So the way to do that is to get onto your whites slider and drag it up until it's getting towards the right hand side, and you can just do a quick before and after. See what difference it makes, and it's affected the highlights on these girders as well. Okay, right, so you've got quite a bit of noise going on down here, so let's see if we can do anything about that. So if we go to our luminance noise, and I think there's a bit of colour noise. You can see these greens and magentas coming in there. So let's have a little bit of colour noise as well. That's not too bad. Let's add a little bit of sharpening and remove the detail. What I find is if you have a lot of detail, it sort of adds noise to a shot. It has that look. It's probably technically not correct to say it's adding noise, but it's adding some form of grain. Okay, so let's smooth that out a little bit there. And I'd almost go and get a brush and add more contrast to this. So I've clicked on the brush, I'm going to go to contrast, and what I want to do is bring the highlights up and the shadows down as well a little bit. There we go. I'm just going to make this. Don't worry, we can go in and play with the slides. I'm just drawing on the mask to begin with. Oh, I've gone over quite a bit there, haven't I? I think I'll swap over to the brush. Oh, time's up, crikey. But you can see what I was going to do there. Just try and make those girders really stand out like that. And then you could do something similar on the outside, maybe just to give it a bit more va-va-boom. Okay, I've gone over on that one a little bit, so I might have to go over on this one a bit. So it's a more. I think we're back to Yorkshire here, and I think it might be another one of these miniature shots, because the top's blurred up there and the bottom is fine. So first thing, lovely use of a lead line from this wall here. So maybe if you're going to get a nice lead line like that, it's a good opportunity to get a brush, go for a bit of clarity and maybe a bit of sharpness, shrink the brush down a bit, that's too big, and you can make the wall stand out a little bit just by brushing those on. It's gone a bit dark, hasn't it, there? So what we can do is just tiny bit more light on it. You can do the same on this wall here. You know, just these little tweaks on landscapes make quite a bit of difference. I'm going to raise the shadows, I think. Okay, so if we switch it off and switch it on, you can probably see there's a little bit of a difference there. Again, the same problem 3 times in a row actually. We've got 2 stops under exposure going on. So what we can do again is get the whites, drag these up. You don't always have to go all the way to the right, but that's where you stop. Okay. Maybe come down a bit. If anything, I think the shadows might want to come up as well a little bit, just to bring some light into these dark branches here. If you look at the effect of the shadows, so if you have it low, they'll go quite black. If you have it a little bit higher, it'll just bring some detail. If you go too far, like that, all the way to 100, it starts to look like a HDR. So prevent yourself from doing that. I went over on the last one, so I'll keep going on this. So let's zoom out. I'll try to zoom out. There we go. Looks like we've got a little slither down the side here. Not a hard thing to fix. You just need to get your crop tool. In fact, if you didn't know about this, if you're using your crop tool, if you click on this little drop down thing here, you can get it to a 3x2, or if you want square, a 1x1, and all that sort of stuff. Now I don't think we're going to be able to do a 3x2, because if you look at this, oh, it's gone the wrong way around. There we go. It's going to start cropping the edges of the tree off. Yeah. So we'd lose a bit of the tree probably at that side there, and I don't think it would look too good. You always want to keep the tree fully in if you're going to have a tree. So let's undo that. Yeah, maybe one of those where I don't think I want to put any more clarity onto it. Let's just add a little bit of vignette. Let's make it look a bit dark and broody. That just draws the eye to the middle if you have a very subtle vignette. See, that's only -12 there. If we went any further, it'd start looking a bit too dark like that. So a little subtle one, maybe about 12 or 13, that can do quite a nice effect on the shot. Yeah, so I'm not convinced about the use of the miniature effect on this one here. I can't see any real point on this particular shot. But generally, I think you've composed a pretty decent looking shot. Okay, so let's have a quick look over them. Yep. So only thing I changed in this one was a bit cold, and the crop was what I call bullseye. So if we went to reset the crop, the waterfall is about as central as you can get it at that point there, which generally isn't a good thing. Next one, nice scene, just a bit of a HDR thing going on here, which you can probably solve in Photomatics. What I was going to go on to say is it might be worth adding a bit of brightness to these lobster cases, just because they're pretty vibrant and colourful, so you could maybe bring those out a little bit. Okay. Yeah, this one, just a nice crop there, and I don't really get the position of the miniature, but I think it might work okay if you had this building sharp and the foreground and sky blurry, but as it is, I don't think it works. Yeah, I did like this one. Didn't really get a chance to do it justice with the edit I was going to do there, but hopefully you can see where I was going with it. Just make something a bit more dramatic with a bit of clarity and contrast on here, and then so that doesn't look so dull out there, let's do a little bit of work separately on that side. And finally a nice lead line, nice sort of Yorkshire looking scene, but not entirely convinced you needed to blur that. It is blurred, isn't it? It's not just my virus ridden eyes. Okay, well, that's this week's critique done. There's a few arrived in next week's folder already. If you want to be part of it, just upload a photo to that folder, and if you've not been invited to Dropbox to join in, just drop us a line at training@mcfade.co.uk. I'll send you a share over and you can join in. Thanks a lot.